Hello everybody and welcome to today's science lesson. Today we're going to be learning to identify and classify by understanding food chains. Okay, so previously in science we've looked at the diet of animals, okay? And by diet we mean what they eat, okay? And we learnt some terminology as well. So let's start with a recap. Here on the screen you can see a lion. Now, a lion only eats other animals, okay? Doesn't eat plants, it only eats other animals. Can you remember what is the word for animals that only eat meat, that only eat other animals? What is the word for those kinds of animals? It is a carnivore. Very well done at home if you managed to get that right, if you remembered that. Okay, so carnivores only eat meat, they only eat other animals, okay? So now we've got a picture of a cow. Okay, a cow only eats plants. If you watch a cow, they just spend all day grazing on grass. Okay, what do we call animals that only eat plants? Have a little think. What do we call the animals that only eat plants? Okay, well, the answer is herbivores. Okay, herbivores are animals that only eat plants. So carnivores only eat meat, herbivores only eat plants. So with that in mind, what then do we call animals like bears, like humans, that eat both plants and other animals? What do we call those kinds of animals? We call them omnivores. Okay, so herbivores only eat plants, carnivores eat other animals, omnivores eat plants and animals. Okay, massive well done if you remembered those from before. Okay, so another question for you. Where do we, humans, where do we get our energy from? Okay, where do we get our energy from? And by energy, I'm talking about the fuel that keeps us going. Where do we get that from? Well, the main source of energy for us, the main source of our fuel, is from the food we eat. Okay, so we get energy by eating food. Okay, and our body turns that into energy. And we're going to learn more about that later on. Okay, but I want you to think about something though. You might have seen plants before. In fact, you'll obviously have seen plants before. Grass, plants, flowers. Have you ever seen them eat something? No, okay. You don't see grass eating a burger or a hot dog. Okay, so where then do plants get their energy from? Well, the answer to that is the sun. Okay, plants they do something very clever. They turn sunlight into food that keeps them going. Okay, so that sunlight goes to plants and they turn it into food. Now, this process, you don't need to know about this yet, but I know some of you like fancy words to learn. This process is called photosynthesis. Okay, plants make their own food using photosynthesis. Okay, what that means is that we call plants producers, okay, because they make their own energy. Okay, they're producers, they produce the energy themselves. They don't need to eat a plant or another animal to get energy, they produce it by themselves using light from the sun. Okay, so plants are producers because they create their own energy. Okay, now we've got producers like plants. Okay, this plant might get eaten by a rabbit, for example. Okay, so this rabbit is getting its energy from the plant. Okay, and as you'll remember, the plant got its energy from the sunlight. Okay, so the plant is a producer, we know that already. The rabbit here is a consumer, all right? That's because the rabbit isn't making its own energy from the light. It consumes something, it eats something to get its energy, okay? So when we're looking at plants and animals, we've got producers. These are the plants which create their own energy using sunlight. And then we've got consumers, which get their energy from eating something, okay? From eating a plant or an animal. Producers and consumers, okay? So there are those definitions. Producer, is something that makes its own food using the sun, using sunlight. And a consumer is an animal that eats a plant or another animal to get its energy. Okay, so keep those in mind. Those are really important. Right. What we're creating here, though, is actually a food chain. Okay, food chains show the transfer of energy by showing you what is eating what, basically. Okay, so we've got the start of a food chain here. We've got at the beginning of it the producer, the plant. Okay, this is the start of the food chain because it doesn't eat anything. Okay, it gets its energy from the sun. And then this arrow shows that this plant is then eaten by a rabbit. Okay, a consumer. And we could take this food chain even further. So rabbit might be eaten by a fox, okay? And a fox is also going to be a consumer because, again, consumers get their energy from eating plants or animals, whereas producers create their own energy. Okay, so the fox eats the rabbit eats the plant. The fox and the rabbit are both consumers, the plant is a producer. I hope that's making sense, okay? Now, there's more terminology we can add here that might be quite important, okay? The fox is a predator. Predators are animals that hunt for food, okay? So the fox hunts other animals to eat, okay? It hunts rabbits and other animals and it eats them. The rabbit is prey, okay? It's an animal that is hunted for food by other animals, okay? So within these consumers, we've then got other terms as well, predator and prey. And here are those terms I just talked about. So predators hunt other animals for food, and prey are animals that are hunted by other animals for food, okay? So think about this picture here. Okay, the big fish is the predator, the little fish is the prey. The big fish is eating the little fish, the predator eats the prey. Okay, so we covered quite a lot there. We've looked at producers, they're plants that create their own energy using the sunlight. We've looked at consumers. These are animals that get their energy by eating plants or other animals. We've got predators. These are animals which hunt other animals for food. And we've got prey, which are animals that are hunted by animals for their food. Okay? Producers, consumers, predator, and prey. Okay? So, I hope you've taken some of that in because it is now our sort of main activity. In fact, it's our quiz time. Okay, we're going to look through some examples of food chains. Okay, and your job is to explain in those food chains what are the producers, what are the consumers, what are the predators, what are the prey. Okay, so let me take you through that. Here is our first food chain. We have got grass, an antelope, and a lion. Okay, and those arrows basically show eaten by. That's what they mean on a food chain. So you've got the grass, which is eaten by the antelope, and the antelope, which is eaten by the lion. Okay, now up here, you've got some sentence stems. Okay, the producer is something because, the consumers are something because. Okay, your job is to use those sentence stems to explain, first of all, what are the producers in this food chain and what are the consumers. Okay, so the producer is because, the consumers are because. Okay, so hit pause now. Use those sentence stems to explain the producers and the consumers in this food chain. Hit pause, please. Okay, so hopefully you've done that. If you found that a bit tricky, I'm going to show you basically what the answer was here, okay? So the producer is the grass, okay? The producer is the grass because it makes its own energy using sunlight and it doesn't eat plants or other animals, okay? So the producer is the grass. The consumers are the antelope and the lion because they don't produce their own energy, they don't make their own energy, they get their energy from eating plants, in the case of the antelope, or other animals, in the case of the lion. Okay, so the grass was the producer, and the antelope and the lion were the consumers. Okay, let's move on to our next sentence stems. Okay, so we've still got the grass, the antelope, and the lion. Okay, this time I want to know who are the predators in this situation, who are the prey in this situation, okay? So the predator is because, the prey is because, okay? So hit pause now and explain who are the predators and prey in this food chain. Okay, so hopefully you did that. Let me talk you through it. So the predator is the lion because it hunts other animals. In this case, it hunts the antelope, okay? Now, the antelope isn't a predator because even though it eats grass, it's a consumer, right? It's not hunting other animals, okay? It just eats plants, okay? So the predator is the lion because it hunts the antelope for food. The prey then is the antelope because it is eaten by the lion, okay? So well done if you got that at home. Okay, we're going to look then at a couple more food chains and do the same thing again. Hopefully you have a better understanding of how producers, consumers, predator, prey work now. So let's press on to the next one. Okay, so now we've got grass eaten by the mouse, which is then eaten by the snake. Okay, so first up, we're going to talk about producers and consumers. Okay, in this food chain, what is the producer and why? And what are the consumers and why? Okay, so the producer is because, the consumer is, or the consumers are because. So hit pause now and try and say in those full sentences, what is the producer and what are the consumers here? Hit pause. Okay, so hopefully you've done that. Let me talk you through what the answers are to this one then. So the producer is the grass, okay, because it doesn't eat a plant or an animal. It makes its own energy using light from the sun, using photosynthesis, okay? The consumers are the mouse and the snake because they don't make their own energy. They get their energy from eating plants or eating animals. Okay, so the producer is the grass, the consumers are the mouse and the snake. Big well done if you got that at home. Okay, let's move on to the next one then. So again, predator and prey. So the predator is because, the prey is because. Okay, hit pause now and see if you can explain what is the predator and why, and what is the prey and why. Okay, hopefully you've done that. If not, just hit pause now and have a bit of extra time. But I'm going to go through the answers to this one. So, the predator in this food chain is the snake, okay? Because the snake gets its food by hunting other animals. In this case, the snake hunts the mouse for food, okay? Which means the prey is the mouse because it is hunted by the predator, okay? So these predator-prey things, they're kind of connected, aren't they, okay? The predator eats the prey is eaten by the predator. Okay, just like that. All right, so let's have a look at one more food chain together and see if we can explain again the producers, consumers, predator, and prey. Okay, now we've got 4 things in this food chain. Okay, so I've expanded it slightly. We've got a leaf, a caterpillar, a robin, and a cat. Okay, and the arrows show again eaten by. Okay, the leaf is eaten by the caterpillar, which is then eaten by the robin, which is then eaten by the cat. Okay, so once again, to start with, we're going to talk about producers and consumers. Okay, what is the producer and why? The producer is because, and what is the consumer, or what are the consumers and why? The consumers are because. Okay, so hit pause now and have a go at explaining which plants, animals are the producers and consumers. Hit pause now, please. Okay, so hopefully you've done that. I'm now just going to talk through it briefly. Okay, so the leaf is the producer because it makes its own energy. Okay, it doesn't eat a plant or an animal. It gets its energy from sunlight, from photosynthesis. So the leaf is the producer, which then means everything else here is a consumer. So the caterpillar, the robin, and the cat are all consumers because they all get their food from eating plants or animals. Okay, so the producer is the leaf, the consumers are the caterpillar, robin, and cat. Okay, bit more tricky now. We're going to talk about predators and prey here. Okay, so the predators are because, the prey are because. Okay, hit pause now and see if you can explain who are the predators and the prey in this food chain. Okay, so let's talk about this one then. Now, it's a bit more complicated because some things here are going to be both predator and prey, as we will see in a moment. So let's start with predators. Well, the predators here, first of all, we've got the cat. The cat is a predator because it hunts the robin, okay? And the robin is also a predator because it gets its food from the caterpillar, okay? So we've got the two predators here. But then prey, I'm going to change colour to, let's use, about this, let's use green. So the prey, well, the caterpillar is prey because it's hunted by the robin, right? But the robin, as well as being a predator, is also prey here because it's hunted by the cat, okay? So we've got two for both of these. The predators are the cat and the robin, but the prey are the caterpillar and the robin again, okay? So massive well done if you got that at home, okay? So that brings us to the end then of that little quiz. If you struggled a bit, maybe go back through it again and it might begin to make sense more. There is a little optional extra today, okay? You don't have to do this, but it might help you because next week we're going to go on to creating our own food chains, okay? And it's really important we remember this vocabulary, these new words we've looked at, okay? So there were 4 new words we looked at today: producer, consumer, predator, and prey, okay? What'd be great is if you could create a little poster, maybe with pictures and then definitions of those words. So what do they mean, okay? And I'm actually going to go back to those definitions for you quickly. So remember, producer makes its own food using the sun. So these are plants, right? Plants make their own food using sun in a process called photosynthesis. A consumer is an animal that eats a plant or another animal, okay? So it's not creating its own energy, it's getting its energy from eating something, all right? And then the other words we learnt today were predator and prey. So predators are animals that hunt other animals for their food. Prey are animals that are hunted by animals for their food, okay? Predator, prey. Predator eats the prey, okay? So if you would like to, it'd be great if you could create a poster explaining those words. You don't have to do this, it might help you, okay? But thank you very much for watching this lesson and join me in next week's science when we are going to be creating our own food chains. Thank you very much.